you do, ladies and gentlemen? Last week I did mention that I would tell you how to buy a house without getting a mortgage, but let me give you a real-life example of one of the deals I did some time ago. I bought a house in Burnley in northern England. Let's run this as the example of what you can do and how you can do it. Obviously the figures for you will be different, but you do need to start in a place where house prices are low, but the rents are not too low. What is important is not necessarily the prices I have used here, although they are real. What is important is the principle. The first point to be careful about is that you have to start with as small an outlay as possible and aim for as high a rent as possible after having done any necessary upgrading. Before I get going, let me deal with one probable complaint about the example. My example uses a cheap house, but the house you probably want to buy no doubt costs a lot more. Let me remind you that this is an example about how to do things in such a way that you get where you want to be within a relatively short time. You should not expect to start with the mansion. You work up to that. Okay, let's get started. I needed £30,000 to buy this house. You can get an 80% buy-to-let mortgage, which means you need to put up £6,000 of your own money, and then you'll have a £24,000 debt at roughly 5% interest. However, that will get you into a dead-end situation. There is no way forward using that method. Well, there is. You pay off the mortgage over 20 years and then you can get on to the next deal. That's really no way to operate. You live in a capitalist society, so make use of capitalist situations. Get that money working. Remember, money's your servant. Get it to work. Here's how you do it. If you go to the bank to get a loan, say to buy a car, you'll probably find you can get anything up to about £9,000 relatively easily. Probably at a rate of, around about 6%. It's a long time since I've borrowed money from the bank, so I'm not up to date on these things. You can do this with 3 banks. Obviously, you need to have accounts at 3 banks, which have been operated with money going in over a period of at least 6 months and probably a bit longer. You can always set up direct debits from one branch to another, so you can roll the money round. Remember, the further you roll your penny, the more money it picks up. Okay, so you've successfully been running these 3 accounts for, 6 to 9 months, or maybe a little longer. You manage to have each account holding at least £1,000. Now you go in and ask for your loans to buy this car. You now have 3 loans of £9,000, or a total of £27,000 available, plus you've got your £3,000 in cash. You're now ready to buy the property in Burnley. Okay, so you've bought it. You spend your weekends doing up the property. Now you rent it out, getting £130 a week for it. You can now get it valued and get a loan secured on it. Your existing loans are costing you roughly £135 a week. Okay, so you're losing £5 a week, but you do have a mortgage-free house. So what do you expect? You're at least in the position of being able to buy your next property right away. Your house now values up at about £35,000 because you've tarted it up. You get an interest-only 80% mortgage on it at about 5%. You now have £28,000 in your pocket and you can buy the house next door. Only you don't. You go up market. You push yourself. You go to a better area where the rents are higher and you can get, let's say £145 a week. Your new property is costing you £1,400 a year. Your new rent is bringing in £7,000. So for the first few months you had a hard time because you were running at a small loss. But by starting things the right way round, you are now running with a nice little profit. You aren't going to be able to retire for a long time yet, but you are now well on your way. You have a nice business, you own 2 houses, have a plus figure coming in, and a totally mortgage-free property. So you mortgage that second property and buy something else, once again, going up market. The important thing in the equation is to get the cheapest possible house for the largest possible rent within your means. Within 5 years, you should be doing very nicely and can chuck in the day job. Do things the other way round and you will be ready for your second mortgage after about 20 years, and by the time you retire, you will have perhaps 2 properties. You could add in the use of credit cards to help you buy a more expensive property. Normal thinking is to use credit cards for consumer spending. You find something you want to buy, but you don't have the cash to purchase it, so you use the credit card. The problem with this is that if you can't afford the item in the first place, then you most certainly can't afford to pay for it and pay the credit charge on top. So I suppose you are, putting it bluntly, a total idiot. The way to use credit cards is to use them for capital expenses and pay your consumer bills with cash. There is no earthly reason why you should not be able to get cards with £6,000 limits. You would need, 5 such cards to get £30,000, although not all issuers allow you to take out cash up to the limit on the card. So 6 cards would be a better option. Some lenders only allow you half of your credit limit in cash. So you need to be careful, therefore, when you apply for cards. Telephone the issuers and ask them some searching questions. Ask what their policy is over credit limits. Ask them how much you can use the cards and whether you can take out cash, and up to what limit. You don't want more than a couple of cards that don't allow cash withdrawals up to, or at least almost up to, the credit limit. You also need a couple of cards so that you can use them for shuffling. Shuffling is the way you handle credit card debt. No professional will simply use a card up to its limit and then calmly pay the interest. The professional shuffles. To do this, you need to telephone the issuer probably every 3 months to check what promotional deals they are offering. As mentioned above, I regularly get interest-free deals and deals at low interest rates. You are specifically looking for deals at, 5.9% or less, but you should be hoping to get at least one for 0%. First, check out the opening deals. Then check out the transfer deals. A judicious combination of car loans and credit card cash will buy you a cheap house with relative ease. Naturally, you don't buy a wasting asset, that car. By using a combination of bank loans and credit cards, you can probably buy 2 properties a year without too much trouble, and then get normal mortgage finance on those mortgage-free properties to expand. Within 5 years, you can not only chuck in the day job, but you could also start to live to a much higher standard. However, the sensible person takes a view on this. The object of the exercise is to reach a certain level of income before you start to use it. In the early stages of growing your business, you should be putting up with a poor life, working hard, and ploughing all your money back into the business. When you reach what is for you your magic income, then you can start to relax and spend some of your gains. You should now be able to see the importance of rolling your penny through as many hoops as possible, so that as it rolls through each hoop, it picks up more money, which can be channeled into your pocket. The more convoluted the deal, the more possibilities there are of extracting profit at each point of convolution. Remember, the golden principle: money is your servant. Put it to work. and then put other people's money to work for you as well. You'll be surprised how quickly you start to become wealthy. And sooner or later, you'll have that nice house. Next week, we'll look at buying investments, and after that, I shall be answering some questions sent in by readers of the blog and watchers of the movie. So, until next week, thanks for listening. Do please like my blog, it does help, and see you next week.